Welcome to Sable Island Conference 2021. This is session 2, Visiting Sable Island for the First Time, presented by Dawn Marie Giles. I am April Henniger, Chair of the Board of Directors for Friends of Sable Island. We're a volunteer-run charitable organization dedicated to the long-term protection and preservation of Sable Island. And we run education programs, promote research, build a community of caring, and advocate for Sable Island. We've held a biannual Sable Island Conference since 2015. This was designed as a major fundraiser for education programs and especially our annual scholarships. We had hoped to hold an in-person one in 2021, but this proved too difficult with the intermittent restrictions on travel and physical gathering sizes. So like the Olympics 2020 that were held in 2021, Sable Island Conference 2021 is being held in 2022. So visiting Sable Island for the first time will take you on a trip to the island through photos and stories of Dawn Marie Giles. Dawn Marie dreamed of traveling to Sable Island most of her life. Her dream finally came true in October 2021. As a horse owner, she had a keen interest in Sable Island horses and shares what she learned about their life on the island. Dawn Marie is an accountant in Nova Scotia and currently volunteers on the board of directors for Friends of Sable Island as its treasurer. So take it away, Dawn Marie.
Okay, thank you, April. As April said, there we go. Sorry about that. As April said, my dream did come true in October of 2021, and I was able to fly as a board member out to Sable Island. We flew with Sable Aviation. This is an 8-seater plane, and there were 7 of us flying that day. The flight is about 45 minutes, depending on headwind or tailwind. The beach is a runway, or I should say the runway is a beach, which means it's very dependent on weather. This is the view as we flew along the coast to our landing spot. Once on the ground, we are greeted by Parks Canada staff. We are divided into our groups. Abby, who is another board member, and I are paired with Jennifer and Audrey, 2 Parks Canada employees. While we wait for all the gear to be unloaded, I noticed this footprint. I was so excited to be that close to a Sable Island hoof print, I had to take the picture. We jumped in the side-by-side and we're on our way to main station. I look to my right and I see these beautiful ponies. Audrey stopped for me to grab this shot. Okay, on our way again. I can't believe the view of the sky and the sand. It's just an incredible view that you don't see anywhere else. So we arrived at main station and where we have a quick briefing on the rules, and off we go. The 4 of us started out on foot. Rule number 1, stay on the walking path. Rule number 2, stay at least 20 meters from the ponies. So we're walking and talking. This is one of the freshwater ponds that the ponies drink out of. In this picture, you'll see Jennifer walking away from the ponies that were over there. She was headed down because she thought there was a pony stuck in the fence down there, but it ended up he was just scratching his bum. So all was well. That's kind of a closer one. By this point, it was pretty much lunchtime, so we stopped for lunch, and this was our view. At this point, we had probably 2 to 3 groups of ponies around us. You can't see them in this picture, but because they're off in their distance. And they pretty much just ignore us and munch away on their grass. This is a picture of the weather station. Notice the fence around it. They fence that in so that the horses can't get to it, because horses can be very destructive with either scratching or chewing, so they don't want any damage done. This was just a group that we had stopped and watched for a little while. So we continue walking and chatting, and Audrey very cautiously asks if we want to see something cool. You see, a horse had died, but out of that death grew so much vegetation. The next slide is a picture of a hoof and some bones from that horse. So as she's telling us this story, I look down. It's hard to see in this slide, but I'm going to use my mouse. Right here, if you guys can see that, there's a tuft of the horse's mane sticking out of the sand. So I said to Audrey, I said, can I just touch that very carefully? Because on the island, you don't touch anything. But she said that I could if I was careful. So I bent down and I held that piece of mane, and just the feeling of awe and the feeling of the realization of the amount of survival and death that go on the island. There's just no place like it. It was just such an incredible feeling. So we finished chatting here, and this next picture is kind of a fun one that I tried to make it look like Abby was holding a pony in her hand, but it didn't quite work, but it's still a fun photo. So we took it. This is a group that we stopped and watched for a little bit. We got to watch them trot over to their water hole and have a drink. There they became a little bit curious as to who we were, but stayed their ground, and we stayed away. Just a couple shots. We're watching the sky in this one because it's going from a very, very bright sunny day to we better watch the sky kind of day. So we're walking up to a spot called Old Main Station. I'm not sure when or why it was moved, but there isn't much left of the old station. So we started up this incline, still chatting away, talking about the ponies and life on the island. And I turned around to Jennifer and I said very firmly, or maybe a little scared, I said, we have to go. And she said, we have to go. Oh, she glanced behind me, and this guy was walking towards us. So on the island, the rule was we needed to stay 20 meters from the ponies, and the ponies have the right of way. So if they're coming towards you, it's up to you to move away from them. So we walked back down this hill and up to the top of this hill. And we stood here and watched this group of 3 for a little bit just to see what they were going to do. Then we went down. So this was on the other side of the island. So we started walking back towards Main Station. And we didn't walk very far before we were picked up by Jennifer in the side-by-side. So again, we're watching the sky in this one because it's ever changing. It's very neat to watch. So as we're going along on the side-by-side, we come across this guy. And like I said, on the island, the ponies have the right of way. So we had to stop and wait for him to decide what he was going to do. So he did stand there and stare at us for a couple minutes, but then he moved on his way and we kept going. So the reason Jennifer picked us up in the side-by-side was because she wanted to give us a little bit of a special tour. I'm very grateful that I was able to do this part of the tour. And so she's actually taking us out to the very tip. But along the way, we get to see, these are seals in the water. And we have to drive by them very carefully because they're very skittish. So she slows right down and I was able to snap this picture. This sky and the sand, the view of it out there is just, it's indescribable. I'm having a hard time describing how I feel with this picture. It was just incredible. So once we get past the grassy parts of the island, they have this crossing, which they've made it a crossing so that if you want to get from one side of the island to the other, you have to go through these buoys, because if there's any hope of vegetation to be on this end of the island, they don't want to impede that by driving over it. So we went through this little crossing and we're heading to the other end of the island. Still watching that sky. Oh my goodness. So these guys were pretty close to the other end of the island and we got to stop and have a look at them for a few minutes. They're just munching away on their grass. And these three were kind of playing a little bit. It was really cool to watch because I have two geldings, which are male horses, and these two guys kind of played the same way my two do. So it's kind of neat to know that my guys play the same way that wild horses do. So that was really interesting. So that is the tip of the island. And the black dots that you can see are seals. Oh, that's me. And the seals behind me. Notice that sky. I keep mentioning the sky. So more pictures of like I said, that's the very tip of Sable Island. And the black cloud. So because of the changing sky and that nasty black cloud, we jumped in the side-by-side and we're heading back quickly to main station. And we come across this photo, or this little baby following his mom. So I snapped a picture as quick as I could. And then that happened. That's our windshield. Those black clouds let go and we were in a torrential downpour. So that is now our runway. So I offered to stay the night and, fly out the next day when it was nicer, but they didn't go for that. So the rest of it was just a very quick get back to main station, get our stuff gathered up, and get back on the airplane. And that is a picture of us flying from the island. And I can't lie, when we were taking off, I had a pretty good grip on the seat in front of me, and I held my breath until the wheels got off the ground because it was pretty soggy by the time we were ready to take off. And then these next shots are just from the airplane as we're leaving the island. So it was an amazing dream come true. Thank you for joining us today and sharing in my journey today. And April is going to talk a little bit on how to get to the island.
Sure. Thank you, Dawn Marie. Thank you for sharing your story. At our last session, there were a number of questions about how do I get to the island? What are the options? So we thought we'd just add a few slides to this presentation and answer some of those questions. So it is a national park reserve and permission to visit is required. And there's an online visitor request form on the Parks Canada website. And then there are licensed tour operators who can operate tours, and they will get the permissions on your behalf. Visitors are welcome from June to October, but this year there is a trial for winter trips. Sable Island is a remote island that is only accessible by sea and by air, and it does require ideal conditions for the trip to occur. Delays and cancellations are common due to weather, and Dawn Marie talked about watching those clouds while she was out there.
Yes.
There are biosecurity measures in place to protect Sable Island, and no matter how you travel, those are in effect. And be prepared for backcountry-like wilderness experience. This is not a walk in the park in a normal park. So options to travel by air. So air service is provided by fixed wing airplane and helicopter. Planes land on the beach. There's no permanent runway on the island. Helicopters land on a permanent helipad. So right now, the providers by air, Breton Air out of Cape Breton does helicopter charters. Katuk Expeditions, they do organized tours by plane and helicopter, and I believe boat. Picture Perfect Tours also do organized tours by plane and helicopter. Sable Aviation offers full plane charter, either by other organizations or an individual who wants to fill up the seats, and offers occasionally individual seats for sale on a plane. And Vision Air Services offer helicopter charters, and they're often chartered by the tour companies. And then by sea, visitors by sea are welcomed from around the world between early June and late October, and typically either cruise ships or private vessels. So expedition cruises this year, Adventure Canada has a small ship expedition cruise on their ocean endeavor, June 23rd to July 4th, and with 2 days stop at Sable Island. And that's their Ocean Endeavor ship at the top corner. And then private vessels need to register in advance with Parks Canada to come ashore. And if you don't do that before leaving the mainland, you might get there and not be granted permission to land. There are a number of factors around decisions on how many people on the island at one time. And there are no mooring or docking facilities. So it's anchor offshore. Oops, sorry.
Sorry.
So it's anchor offshore and then come ashore on a small boat like a Zodiac or something, which is what Adventure Canada also has to do. So I've got little images here for a sailboat. An ocean-going yacht can make a trip to the island, and we're aware of several who have done that. Fishing boats or any other offshore working vessel can sometimes be chartered to take you out. And I've got a picture of a kayak because there is one group who, as a fundraiser, A for Adventure, they kayaked out to the island. I think it took them 30 hours. I don't think they're recommending it for anyone else.
Oh my
But
goodness.
if you're very adventurous, there are other ways to get there by sea. All right. So yes, so the next slide, I believe, is our closing slide. And so thank you for taking the time to learn a little bit more about Sable Island National Park Reserve.